But onto the long straight we go. We get the better exit of the Angelis, and this time I think he will be boxed in, because this is where the turbo kicks in. No chance for Watson whatsoever. Oh! Hello everybody and welcome to the Sim Racing Time Machine. My name is Robin and I recreate historic racing seasons in Automobilista 2 on this channel. And today we're going to start a new Formula 1 season, and once again I let you vote which season you wanted me to tackle next. And after 3 consecutive seasons in the 90s, this time you have chosen a decade that we have never visited on this channel before, as the season that the majority of you voted for was the Formula 1 season 1983. This season is right in Formula 1's turbo era, maybe the start of the proper Formula 1 turbo era. Now, turbo engines have been around in Formula 1 since the late 70s when the Renault Works team started using them, but until 1983 they have never seen any championship success. Sure, turbo-powered cars have won a few races here and there, but they were very unreliable in earlier seasons. But that changed in 1983 as Nelson Piquet became the first world champion powered by a turbo with the Brabham BMW in that year. Apart from the breakthrough of the turbos, that year also marked the end of Formula 1's first ground effect era that started in 1987, but safety concerns saw ground effect banned for the 83 season, as 1982 saw the last fatalities at an official F1 race weekend until the San Marino Grand Prix 1994. All this meant that the cars all looked a bit bulky, with maybe the exception of the McLaren, whose looks remained quite unchanged, and the Brabham, which might be one of the most unusual looking F1 cars ever. We're going to compete in this season in one of the turbocharged cars as well, as I will be driving as Andrea the Cesaris in the Alfa Romeo, which was a works team back then. Why the Cesaris? Well, he's the driver with the second most races without a race win, just behind Nico Hülkenberg. And this is significant because nowadays races consist of 20 plus races a season. When the Cesaris was around, there was a maximum of 16 races a season, and people tended to not have as long careers for various reasons. During his time in F1 from 1980 to 1994, a whopping 14 years, he earned the nickname of Andrea the Crasheris, which, as I am currently rewatching the races from the 80s, is a bit harsh in my opinion. Sure, he was a bit accident prone, but he was an incredibly quick driver still, regularly putting standout performances in cars that are not really winning material. A few examples. He took pole in Long Beach in an Alfa in 1982, leading the most part of that race, coming close to even winning it before suffering a brake failure. He was one of the drivers that could have won the infamous 1982 Monaco Grand Prix, where multiple crashes and DNFs on the last laps occurred, but he ran out of fuel on the final lap, still being classified third. He took 2 more podiums in 1983, still at Alfa Romeo, finishing second in Hockenheim and Kyalami, and then 2 more podiums followed in 1987 with Brabham, that were already way past their good years in F1, and in 1989 he scored another one with Dallara. One other incredible record that the Cesaris holds is that he has driven for 10 different teams in Formula 1 during his career, and he finished in the points at least once for all of them except one, which is Minardi. And this is especially exceptional because, as I mentioned, he mostly drove for backmarker teams, and back then points were only awarded for the top 6. So the Cesaris' poor career record, in my opinion, comes from unreliable material and also him overdriving the poor material that he had, which of course led to crashes. But this is something that other drivers have been praised for in the past. The Cesaris died aged 55 in 2014 in a motorcycle accident in Italy. But in his memory, we will try to put one thing right in this, our 1983 Formula 1 season in Automobilista 2, and that is win a race as Andrea the Cesaris. But before we get going with this season, a quick shout out to JOL Ecodrome, who did the skin pack for this season in Automobilista 2. As always, you can find the links to the resource down below in the description. The opening race, as so often the case in this series, will be the Brazilian Grand Prix. However, it is not at Interlagos this time, but at the Jacarepagua Circuit in Rio de Janeiro, where F1 raced throughout the 80s. The race in real life was won by Nelson Piquet, but there was no second place, as Keke Rosberg, who finished there, was disqualified for a push start in the pits, and according to Wikipedia, for reasons unknown, the other drivers were not moved up one position each, how it usually is done not only today but back then as well. So yeah, FIA doing FIA stuff like it has always been. But before we get going, here is the starting grid, which will be reflecting the real starting grid for that race as good as possible, since the Cesaris was excluded from this event after his car didn't pass the weight check. We will start from last place on the grid, in our case 24th. And now, without further ado, let's go racing at Rio. And here we are, last on the grid in Rio. And the lights go green and we get going. And here is another first. We are driving with the fully manual gearbox, including clutch and an H shifter. So this is the first one, at least for this Formula 1 seasons. I drove the DTM cars that are, the historic DTM cars once, that are in the game on this channel, where I used the fully manual clutch and H shifter as well. But yeah, these were much less powerful cars, so yeah, this is a very new experience, and with these super powerful turbocharged cars, I think, yeah, this could be pretty interesting, maybe even embarrassing, as we are making our way on to the long straight, the circuit's best overtaking spot, and we will have a massive advantage there with our turbocharged engine in comparison to the naturally aspirated Ford Cosworth DFYs that are used by most other teams. Like, for example, the McLaren that is just ahead of us of John Watson. McLaren in this season, this will be a thing that you'll see throughout the year, is that they had pretty poor qualifying performances over the board, but they usually improved quite dramatically in the races, so almost always they did a last to points or podium challenge. As yeah, I'm taking things really slow on this opening lap because yeah, it's a track that I've never driven on this channel before. Well, we did the Jacarepagua Oval, but I mean, essentially that is a completely different circuit compared to this one, the Grand Prix layout of the 80s, as we're just passing John Watson on the pit straight as we're starting lap 2 of 31. As always, half-distance races that we're doing past Michele Alboreto. We go, now we're just behind Elio De Angelis in the Lotus Renault, and this is also something that is interesting and noteworthy at this point, as Watson is trying to get past us again, as we're trying to make a move past Elio De Angelis, but well, the next one, not really a corner where you can go side by side. Yeah, the thing I wanted to tell you about the Lotus Renault, there are 2 Lotuses, of course, because 2 entries per team. At least that is the case for most of the teams. But Lotus has 1 Lotus Ford that is naturally aspirated, and a Lotus Renault. That was actually the case for the most part of the 1983 season. So the same team running 2 different engines, as we were just boxed in behind Raoul Boesel in one of the Ligier Fords. and Elio De Angelis, who made it past at least one of the Ligiers. John Watson found his way past us again. As I should probably be more focusing on what is actually happening on track and not ramble on about any interesting thing that you might see in this championship and this year. Because look at this. This is Alboreto not even trying, but actually making his move past ourselves again. So down into 17th, into the final corner we go. Can we get past Alboreto? We have to slice in behind him for the moment, but now, pit straight, look at this. The power of the turbo allows us past the Ligier fault and alongside Raul Boesel as well. This is good news as we're through and up to P15, and once again we focus our attention to John Watson in the McLaren ahead, who just passed the other Ligier of Jarrier. Ooh, almost running into the back of that Ligier, almost losing the car there. But I think he will be a sitting duck on the long back straight, which is coming up right after this long left-hand turn, long and slow left-hand turn. Now we shoot out of it, and look at that. Nothing that the Ligier can do against us. And you just heard it there, this was me missing a gear or not putting the clutch on correctly. I'm going onto the clutch correctly, but still it's good enough for us to pass the McLaren once more. I think the third time now that we've passed him. In these technical bits, he has a bit of an advantage in his McLaren MP4 1C. Oh, that's not ideal. Trying to get on the left there of De Angelis to hopefully have the inside line for this left-hander there. But that cost us a position once again against John Watson. But onto the long straight we go. We get the better exit of De Angelis, and this time I think he will be boxed in, because there, this is where the turbo kicks in. No chance for Watson whatsoever. Oh! Oh, there's contact! De Angelis hit us in the rear. We spin round. I get on the clutch in time so we don't stall the engine. We're on the gravel. We can keep going. There's not too dramatic damage to the car, if there is any damage at all. But let's look at a replay of what actually happened. And I feel like De Angelis cleanly took me out there. And I think the replay is a bit of confirmation on that. It's just wheel-to-wheel contact, so no bodywork actually hit my car. So I think we should be fine. This is De Angelis on board. Yeah, I think he just drove straight to my car instead of avoiding me. Yeah. That, of course, is a majorly disappointing thing, as we were just making up some good ground after starting last. Well, now we were back in 22nd, but we're with the very, very slow guys. I think we'll be multiple laps down by the end of this race, if they even see the end, because back then, reliability, a huge topic. I'd be surprised to see half of the cars finishing each race. As once again, I missed a gear there. As we're now trying to catch up to the next two cars once again. That's one of the Ligies and Nigel Mansell in the Lotus Ford. And yeah, again, we're just streaming past the two of them. Once more showing the dominance that the turbos have in terms of power. But as already said, power is not everything. The turbos were struggling with reliability. Still, in 1983, it was just the first time that they actually managed to win a championship with a turbocharged car. As we go past Mark Zura. And do we get him as well? That is Jacques Lafitte in the Williams number 2. He comes back round our outside. So well done on him. He is trying to pick a fight here with us. More, you saw me switching into the wrong gear, but that all doesn't matter as Lafitte is done for on the main straight. Past him we go and up to P15. We continue on our merry way through the field once more. Second time actually. As we are once again fighting Michele Alboreto in the number 3 Tyrrell. Past him we go. Oh look, there's Watson again, still behind De Angelis, and they're all caught up in a huge train of cars. I think there's probably someone with a mechanical issue in there. But yeah, it's very difficult to fight them. I do still try to do so. Down the inside of Watson we go. I think there's a bit of contact with Watson as I'm too late on the brakes. Michele Alboreto says thank you very much and slips through. But then on the back straight once more. Power down. And we're past the Italian. One of the few drivers that was still around in 1994, the previous season that we did on this channel. There Alboreto was driving for Minardi. This was already the end of his career. Alboreto, a much more successful career compared to the Cesaris, because Alboreto at one point made the switch to Ferrari, won a couple of races there. I think he even finished second in the championship in 1985, was it? As we are now behind Stefan Johansson in the Spirit Honda. One of the few rather backmarkery teams that had a turbo engine. Once more, I disengaged the clutch too late or not enough to switch into second gear into the final corner. And once again, we kind of shove Johansson wide. So, yeah, he lost position to John Watson, who's back at it again. But I think not for long. As once more, the long back straight is coming up. A bit too slow through the left-hander there for me. But now, try and get a good run. 4 cars maybe in this one for us to beat. Past Watson we go easily. Oh, but here's the bad news. I think the 3 cars now ahead of us, they're all turbos. So I think this is why the train is forming. The naturally aspirated cars could go quicker in the technical bits, like Watson and Alboreto, but they are stuck behind him on the straights. This is De Angelis again, who took us out earlier. Ahead of him, this is our teammate Baldi. John Watson once more is passed. And I think at the front of this group is Riccardo Patrese in the Brabham. Past Watson we go into the penultimate corner. We haven't made a move there till now. And it stays like that because Watson round the outside hangs on to the position. Now he's trying to get alongside Elio De Angelis. He pushes him wide onto the curb. So Watson's passed and we're past them both. Next on the road is our teammate Baldi, who has a lockup and he lets us by easily. So that is not an issue. Oh, I think he spun round fully in the background. So there's a big collision behind us. All the cars drop further behind. We will see a replay of that quite soon, as we are now trying to get past Riccardo Patrese. And oh, look at that. I think surely there is some sort of issue with Patrese's Brabham, because we shouldn't get past him that easily. And yeah, I think this is what will be a common theme throughout this race. Now, the first cars are beginning to have some mechanical issues. For now, here is a replay of what happened to our teammate Baldi. So into turn 1, he locks up the right hand side, runs wide, then comes back onto the racing line. But there is John Watson already, and I'm afraid that is all Baldi's fault himself. And here is another replay of something that happened soon after. Alain Prost in the Renault in the race lead. The engine exploded there in the final sector, and into the pits he comes to retire from the race lead. So we gained another position. And this is exactly what I was predicting earlier. The cars are now beginning to experience mechanical difficulties. So we're up to P8 now, with only 21 cars running or somewhat running in this race. So a long period of nothing actually happening, but we're catching up to another group of cars just ahead. There is some lap traffic in there, but I think at least 2, no, I think 3 of these cars we would be fighting for position. They are being held up by someone. Bit of a lockup there as well. Into the final corner we go. And now we're really close. This is Niki Lauda, Derek Warwick and Eddie Cheever. Oh, and Cheever, Warwick and Lauda, they all run wide at the prospect of lapping the cars ahead. And I think that was a bit of an AI glitch there that just gained us 5 positions. So it's not even a fight as we lap Raul Boesel. So this one's not for position. And Dennis Sullivan, I thought he was letting us by, but actually he wasn't. Now he is. So yeah, if you were expecting a fight, I have to disappoint you. I was a bit disappointed there as well, because I was looking forward to actually fighting someone again. Now they're being held up by Sullivan behind, as I run wide. This right-hander here, causing me a bit of trouble, as it immediately leads into the long left-hander that goes on to the back straight. But as we leave it, we are clear of Eddie Cheever's Renault. But that was still not it. The next car up the road is Keke Rosberg, reigning champion in his Williams Ford. The best running non-turbocharged car. Well, and is this actually a fight? It will be advantage Alfa Romeo on the straight. And look at that. He doesn't even need to defend because there's just no point in it. Oh, some smoke coming from the car ahead. This is Stefan Johansson in the Spirit. He's a lap down. He lets us by easily, but so does Lafitte. Oh, as I missed my braking there for the right-left combination, I run off the road, and that is Keke Rosberg back through. So this actually might be a fight for position after all. That is not over after just one pass. Finally, we leave Stefan Johansson behind as something weird happened here. I thought this time I changed correctly into second gear and wasn't missing the clutch or something. Off the road we go, still in fifth. Now we've lost a lot of time to Rosberg. And now, yeah, look at this. Briefly we were into second going into the final corner, and immediately it went back to neutral. I think, or well, I don't think, I know at this point I have lost second gear, then I do something really silly and switch into the wrong gear. Trying again with second, there it worked briefly. Maybe it is still there, that was my thinking at the moment. And there I go back into second. And immediately it just throws me out of second gear. And as I try or engage the clutch to, yeah, change up a gear to make it round the corner, I spin round and drop to P7 out of the points. Again, the top 6 do score points in 1983, but the race was far from over. Now we're looking at Nelson Piquet, who has just dropped down to P3 and had to let Patrick Tambay by as his engine sounds sick as well. And he goes into the pits with 3 laps to go to retire from his home race, so he won't be able to win it like he did in real life. And that meant that we were up into P6 with 1 more lap to go and 1 corner actually. As well, we had to run at reduced speeds because I couldn't switch down into second, which is especially painful in these slow turns because first gear is too low, but third actually is way too high and the refs really drop, and that, yeah, makes us really slow out of the corners. But I think you can see it in the distance a bit. We were gaining on the next 2 cars, which is Derek Warwick's Tolman Hart, currently running 4th, and Niki Lauda's McLaren in 5th. They are fighting for P4, and we were gaining on these 2. So, can we actually still move back into 4th on the final lap here? And I think with only 3 more corners to go, our big opportunity has gone, but we are now really gaining car length after car length with every corner. It might be that Derek Warwick is a bit down on fuel, which would be a sensational result, by the way, for Tolman, 4th in the season opener. Now I will try something weird and switch down to 1st to see if this can give me a better launch onto them out of the final corner, but it doesn't. So we have to live with P6, but I think still this is something we can be happy with. And let's, as we always do, look at the point scorers of this race. It is a 1-2 for Ferrari as Anu finishes ahead of Patrick Tambay. Keke Rosberg, the best non-turbo car, finishes 3rd for Williams. Then a sensational 4th for Warwick and Tolman. 5th is Lauda in the McLaren Ford, and we complete the point scorers with our P6. Unsurprisingly, the Drivers' Championship is exactly the same. just one change compared to the 94 season that we've seen before. A race win is not worth 10 points, but 9 in 1983. And here is the image in the Constructors' Championships. Oh, as a Ferrari fan, how much do I dream of times like this. Ferrari with an early lead. 15 points, the maximum that was on offer today. But then 5 teams scored in the opening round. Williams, Tolman, McLaren and Alfa Romeo. Tough luck for Brabham as Riccardo Patrese finished 8th, just 2 spots outside of the points. And that has been it with the season opener of our 1983 season in Automobilista 2. Leave a like if you did enjoy this video. The next race will take place at Imola, the San Marino Grand Prix. Subscribe to not miss that, and I see you all there. Until then, goodbye.